Woo! That is some heavy duty light. Hold the phone. Okay, that's much better. So, hey, if you are joining me for this book discussion, How Women Rise, I'm happy to have you. And this is video 3, actually, of this discussion. And if you missed the first 2 videos, there's really no worries there, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I really just want to start by welcoming you and joining me in this discussion, whether you're joining me right now live or if you're catching me on the replay. Either way, I'm very happy to have you here and have this discussion. I think it's a really important thing to talk about, especially in this day and age, because there was a time, like our mothers were raised in a different era, a different generation, where the things that we are trying to develop and form ourselves into doing today are very different than the expectation of yesteryear. But guess what? This generation, our daughter's generations, are being raised by women that are still impacted by this way of thinking, which is that it's a man's world, and men's masculinity and approach to getting ahead and achievement is the way to go if you want to get a pay raise, a new job, or follow your passions in your career. That is just not the case anymore. Some people may gravitate toward that personality, a more masculine personality, and that's okay. That works for them. But the truth is that there is another side to the coin that works, if not really, really well, in many cases, better. Wouldn't you agree? And I'd love to hear some comments here about how you feel about that. We are still being impacted today on those behaviors and teachings of the past. So if you don't know me, my name is Princella Stringer. And I have to remember where to look. Okay, so I've got my computer here with my notes. I've got myself here that I'm looking at. I'm pointing my finger at myself. And then here, right here is the camera. This is where I'm supposed to be looking, guys. But I keep looking in all different directions, so you're going to have to forgive me. But anyway, my name is Princella Stringer, and I am an empowerment coach. I wasn't always an empowerment coach. Right? We're not born with these ambitions and goals that we have in life. We kind of work to them, build up to them. And I would say that is true for my story. But my story is for another day. If you'd like to hear more about that, you're welcome to message me and we can chat about that. But I'm here to talk about how women rise. And I want to welcome you, and I just wanted to share with you that the purpose for any videos that I create are to help women to find the power, empower themselves to live their best life. It's quite funny that I say this every single day, and I still have to check my notes. I want to say everything that I intend for you to hear, to fuel you and empower you to live your best life and to go after your ambitions and goals and dreams that you have in your mind. I am in my mid-40s right now, and it took me many, many years to get to this point. I could have been here earlier, but that just was not my journey. What was your journey in getting to where you are today? And as a matter of fact, on that note, I really want to encourage women that have found a magnificent level of success that you're very proud of, and you're feeling wonderful about where you are. Maybe you're joining me because I've invited you in the past to join to share your experience, share what you have done to get to where you are today. Or maybe you're joining me because you've gotten to the level that you can get to, and you want to just hear some more tips about how to get your mindset ready for the next level. That's always going to be happening. if you're joining me here, you are curious to know more about how to get to the next level, and tips that we can offer for that, suggestions from other women to be able to offer tips on how to do that. I also want to mention that you can find me on my personal page, Princella Stringer. I believe it might be under Princella Nunez Stringer. Nunez is my maiden name, and I decided to switch it to my middle name, Princella Nunez Stringer. You can find me on my personal page. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Princella Stringer, and on YouTube. So I have made it all accessible. Not everybody's on Facebook, not everybody's on LinkedIn. So I wanted to be in areas that I thought that I gravitate to. So if I want to attract more like-minded women that are like me, that's where I decided to post my stuff. So I hope you join me on one of those platforms. If you're joining me on the replay, I would love for you to leave a comment, #replay, just to let me know kind of where you chimed in at, and maybe a little bit about you personally and what brought you here to watch this and what you were hoping to glean from this discussion. And certainly, by all means, invite other women to join the discussion. I will be doing this every single Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern to open the doors to you to join me. Let's see, what else did I want to say? Also, yeah, if you have just started watching, if this is the first video that you're watching, I did do 2 other videos, which I talked about briefly in the beginning, and you do not need to have watched those first before joining me here in this live. And I say that because the first video was kind of an introduction thing. I'd love for you to go watch them, but you don't need to watch them first before watching this one. The first video, an introductory video about the book and about the authors and what brought them together. The second video, I talked about some habits that they mention in this book. One of the things that is not my favorite about this book is the fact that they present these as negative habits. Maybe it's just my brain. I like things to be put in a more positive format. So for that reason, I created a PDF that will help you just have a space, a place to remember where to put, or, to take notes on, to talk about how to turn a habit that we discuss here, how to turn it into a positive, how to create it into a habit that will help you get that job, get that promotion, get that raise. And we will continue to talk about each of the habits, and then later we will talk about how to turn these into good habits to follow and to actually keep. So as I said, the second video was about gender neutral habits that we have that are not specific to males or females. They are actually, in fact, a known habit that both men and women are prone to doing. If you want to watch that video, please follow along in the playlist that I do have here in this group, but I also have a playlist on YouTube showing those habits. If you want the PDF to follow along to make your notes on the habits that are most important to you, I have that PDF, and you can email me at princella@mrsprincella.com. That's mrsprincella.com. And I think I have that notation in the notes here, but if not, I will double check that. Or send me a message. Let me know. All right. So let's see here. What do I want to say? I talked about that. All right. So let's get into, wow, I'm doing good. 10 after 7, and I'm already going into the habit that I want to discuss. So the first habit here is, let's see, let me find my page. Habit number 1. Habit number 1. The reluctance to claim your achievements. Woo! Haven't we been there? I have been there. I think I still get challenged a little bit by it. A couple years ago, when I decided to start my business in life coaching and in supporting women, wow, I had such a challenge saying I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. I've started my business. I have a new website. That was so hard for me. I had this little voice in the back of my mind saying, who do you think you are? Isn't that terrible that we do that to ourselves? It's not a healthy place to be. And so this is why this is so valuable and so important to have the discussions and empower each other to speak your voice. Not only to speak your voice, but also to do the inner work inside in your heart and your mind to really get ourselves centered and to the place where we can speak it authentically and naturally and with conviction of our achievements and who we are and where we want to work toward becoming. So on that note, let's talk about that. Reluctance to claim your achievements. Now, according to this book, according to Sally and to Marshall, there are a couple reasons that women hold back from claiming their achievements. And reason number one that they note is that they know someone. Now, if this is you, I want you to write a comment here. You know someone that does this. You know someone is all about their achievements. I got this sale, I got this client, I wrote this book, I blah, 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 blah. All of these things. And how does that come across to you? Not very well, right? So you get a negative feeling about how boastful this person is. Maybe you think they're always talking about all the things that they do. They're always talking about how their child is excelled in this sport and gets straight A's, and that they got this promotion and they're making this much more money. And it doesn't feel good listening to it. So one thing I want you to think about here is it not a feel good because you're not happy and content with where you are and what you want for yourself? Or is it because you don't like the persona that, or the reflection reflection, that's the right word. You don't like the persona you're building in your mind about that person. They're tooting their horn too much. They're boastful. They're just like, want, always about themselves. And you don't want to be that individual. Is that why? Okay, so think about that. Another reason, the second reason that women don't want to claim their achievements is because they feel that their work should speak for themselves, for itself. That was me, big time. I thought, if I'm doing a really good job, if my work is so good and so important, why isn't so-and-so saying something to me? Why am I not being put on a pedestal? Not that I really thought I wanted to be put on a pedestal, but why am I not being pointed out and saying, hey, attention, did everybody notice what Princella did? Attention, did everybody notice what Sally Sue did? If we're not receiving that, then it must not be good enough. It must not be important enough. And so we feel like we had to be validated in that way where someone else pulls it out, someone else points it out. But the truth is, everybody has their own agenda. You may have done a fantastic job and you may have been the person that they can count on, and they recognize that you can be counted on to accomplish the task that you were given. In their mind, that is enough. In your mind, you need the recognition, you need someone else to pull it out for you and to point it out for you. So you don't want to have to claim your own accomplishments. You don't want to have to toot your own horn. But I'm going to share some insights with you as we go on about why this is so important. It is so important. So let's continue. I put in my own notes here, I've been guilty of both. But the second one is the one that speaks to me the most. Now for you, if you would leave a comment here, letting me know, is it that you don't want to be if you don't want to be seen as someone that's always boasting about their own accomplishments and putting themselves up on a pedestal? Or is it that you want to be recognized by others? Because if it's that good, then they should say something. So are you a number 1 or a number 2? Put a 1 or a 2 in there, depending on which one is you and why you don't talk about your accomplishments, your achievements. If neither one of these pertain to you, I'd love to hear, what is the reason that you think that you do not talk about your accomplishments? What is the reason? Maybe there's another idea floating out there that they didn't think about for this book. What is the reason that you are reluctant to claim your achievements? Let's put it out there. If you're someone that used to be afraid of tooting your own horn, how did you overcome that? Oh man, I'd love to hear. How did you overcome it? I will get into my story a little later about how I overcame that for myself, but it had a lot to do with my own self-analysis and my self-belief, my self-esteem in myself. I knew that I had to work on me first to feel good about what I was accomplishing before I wanted to boast about it. Not boast. I mean, that's not a feel-good word, but before I could talk about it, I wanted to feel good about myself first. So that was my journey, and I'll go into that more in depth another time. So, okay, so yeah, whether you're on the replay or you're watching me live right now, please do leave a comment on what is your deal? Why are you not talking about your accomplishments? All right, so in the book here, there's an example, and if you do have the book and you're following along, you can go to page 64. Yeah, that's right. I wanted to read something in here about what Sally found when they did the survey regarding why this happens, or some outcomes that other leaders have talked about. So Sally had asked, why do you think they're not talking about their accomplishments? And what are their opinions? What are the leaders' opinions about the upcoming women that are going to be leaders, future leaders? And they say the women go the extra mile when you give them assignments. One partner said they're extremely conscientious, crossing every T, dotting every I. They take deadlines seriously. They show up. They're meticulous. You can count on them to get the job done. This is what leaders say about the women that were under them at this particular organization, where Sally Helgensen collected some data about this. When asked what the younger women in their firms were worst at, the responses were absolutely consistent. Hands down, they are the worst at bringing attention and visibility to their successes. They often work harder than their male peers, but then go out of their way to avoid taking credit for what they've done, especially with senior leaders. A lot of our women seem uncomfortable using the word I, so they always try to spread the credit around. This might make them good people, but it doesn't help their careers. So this is really important. Makes you a nice person. Makes you looked at really kindly and nicely. Oh, isn't she sweet? But this is not going to help you to achieve the goals that you have in your careers. It does not help your career. So is it possible, with the two things that we talked about on why we don't talk about our achievements, is it possible to find a middle ground there? Is it possible to talk about your achievements in a way that it's not like, you know, over the top? And is there a way to highlight your achievements and show the good works that you did in a way that's helpful? I'm sure someone wants to know if you achieved something at work that was needed, right? I'm sure somebody wants to know about that. It's part of your job, right? So we've got to find a middle ground to this comfort level in expressing your achievements. Okay, Let's see. Now, if you're having trouble expressing your achievements, I'll get back to the point about the example. I have this example coming up, but first, before I get to that, I want to say, if you are still uncomfortable with expressing your achievements, one thing that they note here in the book, which is an excellent first start in preparing yourself for claiming your achievements, is to think about why claiming your achievements would be important to you. How would it benefit you to talk about your achievements? So in giving this example that I'm going to give you right now that they talk about in the book, maybe this will help you come up with your why, you know, in looking at what holds you back. So take note of that to do that for yourself after this video is over, to jot down why you would want to begin claiming your achievements publicly at work, or if you have your own business, how are you going to do that? How are you going to promote your business if you don't feel good and confident about the work that you're doing, and if you don't feel comfortable claiming your achievements? So what is your why and why you should claim your achievements? Okay. So yeah, so what is the biggest struggle for you? Are you still facing it today? Or how did you overcome it if this is your issue? All right, so I'm going to share this story. This story that they have in the book here is about a woman named Amy. She's an executive director. I'm going to read from the book here on page 66 if you have this book. She's an executive director of a small but highly regarded arts foundation in Pittsburgh. Filling out a questionnaire at one of Sally's workshops, she ranked herself a 5, which is the lowest possible grade on a scale of 1 to 5 in her ability to gain recognition for her work. So she scored herself really low. And until recently, Amy did not consider this to really be a problem until the question was posed. So think of this for yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being that you're totally comfortable with gaining recognition for your work, or a 5, which is that you're not comfortable at all gaining recognition. Where are you on that scale? Now, I don't have that survey here in this book, but just think about that for yourself. Where are you on that scale? Are you comfortable gaining recognition for your work publicly? So now a little background on Amy. She shares that she was the oldest in a large Catholic family, and she'd been raised to put others' needs first. Now, as women, I think that this is very common, that we raise our girls to put other people's needs first. I have specifically chosen to do this in a particular way with my children. Yes, we want to be concerned about other people's needs, but we've got to look at the full picture of needs. And so that can be discussed another time. If you're curious to hear about how I do that, I will have a workshop on that later. So if you're curious about that, let me know. I'm still putting it together. But anyway, she was raised with that, and she considered it a virtue. She considered it to be something to be highly regarded and something that she was very proud of, that she put other people's needs first. Many women have that servant heart naturally and want to accommodate people that are there in her space, whether it's a guest in her home or someone in the office. They want to make sure that people's needs are met. How many of you, I mean, I've done this before where I'm in a meeting and I'm thinking, gosh, I need some water. I'm a little parched. And so I want to ask everybody, anybody else want a glass of water? And I've had to hold myself back from checking in on everybody because I'm not their mama. It's not my job, but my heart is to do that. So I had to reel that in a little bit. All right. So she shares a story about how she co-chaired a high-profile charity event. And for this event, she was interviewed by a local reporter, and they asked about the event. And the local reporter interviewed Amy, and he asked what she believed had contributed to the event's remarkable success. She spoke effusively about her collaboration with her partner Mitch, who was at another nonprofit, and they partnered together to launch this. And she went on and on about the specific things that Mitch did, the donors he brought on board, the work that he and his team did, and how well they partnered and worked together. She credited everyone on their team for their hard work and superb planning and their ability to bring top players to the community together. So when the article appeared the next day, Amy found out that Mitch was also interviewed. Guess what Mitch did? Not what Amy did. He didn't talk all about Amy and her team, did he? You know this, right? You know this is where this is going. The reporter who interviewed her had also spoken to Mitch about how Mitch chose to describe the event stood in stark contrast to Amy's description. She says, "I couldn't believe it. He never mentioned me. He basically took credit for everything that had gone right and used the interview to promote himself and his organization." Well, darn him. You know, if we look at these scenarios a little more strategically on what can I bring up or bring to light that I did that worked really well, if we're looking at this strategically, we can think about those things. But if we don't plan ahead on what we'll say, it's very likely that we're prone to more our instinctive tendencies, which is to, you know, shine a light on other people and share the work that other people did. So she was blown away at how Mitch didn't even mention her once. And the story goes on and on about how she felt about that. So Amy's coach, which was Sally, suggested that she started addressing her unwillingness to accept credit. So the way that they did this, they decided to just start baby steps, right? And she had Amy just start off by saying, "Thank you. Thank you. We can do that. You did a great job on that report. Every detail was in there. What do we say? Thank you. I worked hard on that." The kids at dinner, "Mom, dinner is so good." We don't hear that often enough, but "Mom, dinner is so good." "Thanks, guys. I planned this out this morning," or whatever it is. Just simply say thank you. This is how we can start, by accepting public recognition of the work that we have done. And when we start in that level with simple thank yous, then we're more prone to think about the things that we did do and how we will speak up about what we're most proud of in that scenario, in that situation. It sounds really simple to start with, but when we really struggle with pointing out our own accomplishments, this is a great way to start, just by simply saying thank you. Let me just check in here on my notes. So one question I have for you is, how can we discuss our achievements? How can we start discussing our achievements? Have you found this to be a struggle for you today? And I asked this question earlier, but are you still working toward feeling comfortable with talking about your achievements? You know, it's easy sometimes to talk about what other people have done around us, but how do we pull ourselves up and talk about these achievements that we've accomplished? Yeah, that happened because I XYZ. Oh, you saw it? Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And moving on. We can do this, ladies. We could talk about our accomplishments. We could feel great about them and say thank you and be proud of ourselves and talk about it. Okay, so I want to, let's see, what else do we want to do here? I want to talk on page, in the book here, we talk about the art of self-promotion. This is an art, the art of self-promotion, and how to effectively market yourself. So what do companies do when they're marketing their products? We've got to look at this as we are our product. We are. Whether you're working for someone or you have your own business, if you have your own business, your product, you are your product. They're buying from you personally because they like you. And they want to purchase from you because they like what you do. They like what you came up with. You're reliable and trustworthy. Whatever the reason is that they like you, they are there because they want to buy from you. And then they get to find out, oh, this is a great product. So what do companies do when they want to sell a product? They are looking at the product from the perspective of what do customers need? What do they need from this product? So this is one way that we can start to market ourselves, whether, like I said, you have your own business or you're working somewhere. What does my boss need from me? Now, if you've gotten misaligned here on what the scope of your job is and what the true need is for your position and your role, I always suggest that after 6 months to a year of working in your job, if there's any sense of confusion, that you go back and look at your job description. Look at the original posting from your job. It's very common for these things to shift as you're working for someone. However, this can help be a guideline for what they needed from you. And is that need being fulfilled? How has your job changed or shifted? What are new needs that the company or your boss or your peers have of you and the role that you carry? And what do you bring to that? So this is one way to effectively market yourself, is to think about what is the need. Now, a big mistake in not taking self-promoting seriously is that we end up shining a negative light on ourselves, and it gives the notion that what we do is not valuable. It's not valuable. But guess what? If you're hired for a job and they have a need for your position and for your role, you are valuable. What you do is valuable. So bring it up from time to time. You needed this? I got that for you. You needed that? Let me go get it. So easier said than done when you're not facing this situation, right? But practice it. If this is something you struggle with, practice that at home. You need that? Got you. Give me 1 second. You need that? Go to this resource. That'll help you out. Sometimes we have to do that too, right? Delegate. Okay, so when we don't talk about what we do and what we bring to the table, you miss the value in it. And you're not the only one missing the value. Others are really missing the value in it as well. And that is the last thing that you want your boss and your peers, is to not see the value that you bring to the environment, to the job. So look at yourself as your primary product. Whether you're working for someone or have your own business, look at yourself as your primary product and talk about how you fill a gap. You are the answer to a need. This is how we can start talking about our accomplishments. Hugely important. So if this, as I had mentioned earlier, that if this makes you uncomfortable, you must take a note on why this is important. So as we talk about what the position that you hold and the job that your function at your job, how is it needed? Why is it important to the scope, the broad scope? Why is it important to the department? Why is it important to the company? Why is what you do important to the company? To the company, you are important and valuable. And so when you think about that, remind yourself of why you are needed. This will help you talk about your accomplishments. And as I said earlier, as a reminder, if you struggle with this, then start taking baby steps and just being appreciative when someone does point out something that you did well. So that is my note about that. Let me take a look at my notes here. Okay. All right. So on to habit number 2. Habit number 2. And again, the book talks about these habits as kind of negatives. These are habits that are holding you back from your next promotion, your next raise, and the job that you're going for. So habit number 2 that holds you back is expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward your contributions. They're just going to come out of the woodwork. You're going to slave all week, all night, working overtime on this project, working above and beyond while everybody else goes out to dinner. And you want someone to miraculously recognize what you're doing and bring it up and tell other people about it. But it just doesn't work that way. We are all on our own agendas and have missions of our own to accomplish. It just simply does not work that way. I just realized that. Okay, so I just realized that I talked about something a moment ago about companies. Remember this, companies don't just make products and assume their customers should want to buy them. They have a marketing function that is designed to effectively promote what they do and what customers want. Okay, so in other words, a company does not consider their customers and what they should want. They're looking at promoting what they do want. And this is how we have to look at ourselves when, as I talked about a moment ago, with self-promotion. With self-promotion, we have to talk about what we do bring to the table and what people around us need. Not what they should need, not what they should want, but what they do need, because what you do is highly valuable. Okay, so in the book here, we talk about another lesson that someone else, another big lesson for someone, and her name is Maureen, and this is another individual that faced a situation where she had a huge lesson to learn in her situation. Okay, so I'm going to read this. This is on page 78. If you have the book, if you don't have the book, I'm going to share with you what Maureen's lesson. Maureen is a senior partner at a premier San Francisco law firm. Despite her stellar performance, she made partner later than a number of men who joined the firm the same year that she did. This made her feel so undervalued that at the start of her 5th year as an associate, she decided the firm wasn't a good fit for her. And so she decided to bring it to the company's general counsel's office, and she met with him, and she told him what she was planning on doing. And he says to her, "Would you consider staying if you were made partner?" This wasn't until after she said to him, "Listen, I'm out of here." He says, "Would you consider staying if you were made partner?" And without hesitation, Maureen said, "Yes, yes, of course." And he says to her, "Assume that is going to happen. Don't make any moves until it does. I don't think," this is what he says to her, "I don't think the members of our partnership committee realized that you were set on it." Well, to her dismay, how could they not know I was set on it? How could they not know that's what I wanted? So, hadn't anyone in the firm noticed that she'd been working her tail off since the day she arrived? Given her record of achievement, why on earth would they not have assumed partnership was her goal? Did they imagine she wanted to be an associate for the rest of her life? So remember, this habit number 2 is expecting others to notice and reward us for our achievements. 2 months after the conversation with her practice head, Maureen was made partner. She stayed on and has now been with the firm for 14 years. 3 years ago, she was invited to join the firm's prestigious partnership committee, which evaluates candidates and chooses partners. Seeing how this process actually works and how other members of the committee think, she finally understood why it had taken her so long to become promoted. And this is what she says. At my first meeting, we gathered around the conference table, to consider 2 successful associates, a woman and a man. Both had entered the firm the same year, and both had made their mark in the corporate litigation. The head of our litigation practice had glowing things to say about both of them. But in the course of our discussion, he mentioned that the man seemed to want it more. He seemed to want it more. He warned that the firm would lose him if he weren't promoted that year. Maureen knew the female associate and had a high opinion of her. She was particularly skilled at client management, blah, blah, blah. So she knows her story, and she knows. And she brought this up and said, I thought her skills were particularly needed given the challenge that we are facing. This is what she's telling the partners. And I said I hadn't seen the male associate exhibit the same level of attention to the client work. The litigation had agreed with Maureen's assessment, but he was reluctant to lose the male associate to a competing firm. Maureen asked why he believed the associate would leave if he weren't promoted in this round. And he says, that's easy. The guy's been talking about making partners since the first day here. He's totally motivated by the desire and expects it to happen in his first year of eligibility. If we don't give it to him now, I guarantee we'll lose him to the firm that makes that offer. Maureen says, what about Jill? Won't she expect to be made partner as well? Maybe, but she's never said anything about it or pushed to be considered. She seems to enjoy the work for its own sake. She seems to enjoy where she's at. So I wouldn't expect her to leave if she weren't chosen this year. So this is an example at a law firm. Now, all of us are lawyers, but hey, listen, if we think about the way management works and the way promotions work, if someone is getting promoted, they're going to need to fill that seat, right? So are we being vocal about what our intentions are in the workplace? Are we being vocal about how we want to shift and move and grow? Or are we just making assumptions that our bosses know where we want to go, that upper level management knows where we want to go? We've got to start placing ourselves in that strategic plan, in that lineup, and for them to know. So Maureen thought, that's the reason it took me so long to make partner. I didn't start talking about it the moment I arrived. It never occurred to me to do that. I figured if I did outstanding work, I would be chosen from when the time came. I assumed that's how things worked. So I want to invite you to consider, what are the things now that you would love to have be your next move at your place of work? What are the goals that you have right now? And are you waiting on the sidelines for someone else to recognize your achievements? So if you can take a moment right now to just jot down on whatever piece of paper you have in front of you, hopefully you have a notebook or the PDF that I have. If you don't have the PDF, please send me an email at princella@mrsprincella.com and I can send that over to you so that you can jot down the habits that you want to start reframing and forming. So if habit number 1, reluctance to claim your achievements, or habit number 2, expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward your contributions, if one of these habits is a habit that you have, I want you to rephrase, reform that habit into a positive. For example, habit number 1, make it a habit. Make this the new habit. I will claim my achievements publicly. For every achievement that you accomplish, how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it appropriately and publicly? So what is the most appropriate way to do it? To claim your achievement. If that is an issue for you, if that is a negative habit that you have, reluctance to claim, turn it into a positive and think about it strategically on how you are going to flip that script and begin claiming your achievements publicly. Habit number 2, for example, a negative habit here is expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward your contributions. How do we flip that script on habit number 2? We're going to say, I will help others notice my contributions. I will help others notice my contributions. We don't have to specifically talk about the reward here specifically in this habit because the reward will come once you have made it a part of your habits to be vocal about your achievements and to help others become aware of your contributions. Rewards will come once you start verbalizing this. Not only verbalizing that, but also having the goal in mind for yourself. What is the next level for you? So when you've determined what your next level is and what are the pieces that you need to work on for yourself to prepare for the next level, then this is what you're going to be vocal about. And this is what you're going to share and make sure that others recognize in you. So I want to offer that to you to do that. Claim that as your own assignment right now. Start making these new habits yours and claiming them as yours. Start being more vocal about your achievements. Start helping others to recognize the contributions that you are making in the workplace. So that's what I want to encourage you with today in this video 3 of how women rise. The next video, which will be next Monday, at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be talking about the next 2 habits. Habit number 3 is overvaluing expertise. Interesting. So there are many different types of power, and one type of power is achieved through expertise. But in many cases, if we overvalue expertise, what happens there? So we'll talk about that. And then habit number 4 we will talk about is negative habit of building rather than leveraging relationships. So if we're focused more on building relationships versus leveraging relationships, what happens there? So we'll talk about that next Monday. And as I said before, if you're joining me on the replay, please leave a hashtag replay in here. If you have any comments about one of the topics that we covered today, please leave a comment. And if this is something that you overcame yourself, let us know how you did it. Share it with the women in the community. They're going to be jumping on and watching this video and serving each other. So look at this as an opportunity to really share how you've contributed to the workplace and how you've uplifted other women in your workplace that maybe needed a hand. Maybe you have somebody in mind right now that you know needs a hand in helping her shine her best light. How can you use this information today? Share this with her. And next Monday when we come back, I'd love to hear how you share this with someone and invite them to come on over and watch the discussion. And not just watch it, but chime in, engage, ask questions, share your insight. So thank you for joining me in this live. Thank you for watching if you're on the replay. And I will see you next Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. This Wednesday, I will also be posting a video on a discussion that I will have with my dear friend, Erica Chris Wheeler, and her and I will be talking about being a limitless woman. So we'll talk about other topics outside of this book. There's so many things that help us to become and feel limitless. What is holding you back from feeling limitless in your potential? Are the things that you dream of doing one day and you feel like it's just not achievable, not accomplishable? But I want to have these dialogues of conversation, because the only way that we can feel like they're achievable is to hear other stories from other women and how they've gotten themselves to a place of feeling limitless. The sky is the limit if you decide that you want it. So that is what we're doing here, just empowering you and giving you fuel to be able to execute that in your own life, how to feel and become and act and behave in a limitless way to achieve the goals that you have planted within you. And then on Thursday, I will have a guest on this channel. Her name is Loretta Holmes. She specializes in ADHD for children and adults, depression or anxiety for children and adults. And she also serves many individuals that have been traumatized by sexual harassment or rape and things of that nature. So I'd love to have you join me in that talk as well. So thank you so much for popping on, and I'll see you next Monday. Have a great night.